David. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
Good. Thanks so much for the time today. I really appreciate it.
Of course, yeah. Thanks for coming in.
Well, as I told you before, I really wanted to share some information with you about how ADP is different than you may perceive us to be. But before we get into my part, I'd like to ask you first, what is it that you're really focused on right now?
Well, as an organization, we're really focused on growing as fast and as efficient as we can and expanding into new markets. That's our main focus right now.
Okay. Well, and right now is a great time to do that, as a lot of organizations that I meet with in your industry are still in kind of the right sizing mode right now. They haven't quite positioned themselves for growth. They're still trying to figure out how to get back to where they were pre-recession,
Yep.
6-7 years ago. Matter of fact, I saw in the paper last week that you just landed 2 contracts and expecting your workforce to go up by 25%.
Definitely.
That's huge.
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you for noticing.
Yeah,
We're
definitely. Well, I try to notice things like that. Also know in your industry it's extremely competitive. Margins are tight and talent's expensive, and without that it's really hard to position yourself that way. So congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Happy for you. Well, as you can see, I wrote up just a real simple P&L. You're probably familiar with this. Yours probably looks a lot different, but just for sake of discussion today, wanted to share with you how companies are perceiving ADP versus maybe how they should be perceiving us. For example, you probably think of us as a payroll company, right?
Yes.
I am a vendor, which means I am on this line right here in your operating expenses or your general administration
Correct.
line,
Yeah.
correct?
Yep.
Matter of fact, you're probably thinking that, that $40,000 proposal that you had on your table from my predecessor is going to increase that line, right?
That's my assumption. Yeah.
Well, hopefully, what my goal is by the end of our 10-minute discussion today, I'm going to show you how ADP will not only increase your revenue, but we're going to decrease your cost of goods sold. We're going to actually decrease this sales and general administration costs, possibly your overall corporate taxes, in order to increase your profit level. Now, you're probably wondering, how in the heck are you going to be able to do that, right?
Yes.
Well, every company has an expense around their labor, which is their payroll. And I know that your payroll happens to be around $5 million. And then along with that labor, you have your total cost of ownership. So in order to compute that, we've got to take a look at the taxes, the workers' compensation, and possibly the benefits around that labor, which is typically about 1.5 times your payroll. So your total cost of ownership at that point in time is $7.5 million. And every CFO, CEO that I meet with tell me that they are doing everything in their power to maximize every single dollar that they're putting into their business. Is that about right for you?
Yeah, it's one of our biggest investments, so we definitely want to take care of our people.
Absolutely. And make sure that you're getting the best out of them, right? And maximize that profit as much as you can, because that's coming right out of this number here.
Yep.
So what we find is that many companies enlist the help of their payroll department and their HR department from an administrative sort of role to help them with things like you had mentioned: growth, mergers and acquisitions, succession planning, retention, and I'm sure there's a lot of other things too that you're thinking about that keep you up at night. The problem is you have employees, and you have 200 employees at this point in time. So they're doing not only are they trying to help you over here, but they're trying to help you manage the site over here as well. So they're dealing with applications and resumes and onboarding and benefits administration and 401k and employee questions and manager questions, and the list goes on of everything that they have to do on a daily basis. And they're putting it into several different modules. You could potentially have a payroll system and a time and attendance system, possibly an HR system, a benefits administration system, and now compliance, right? Because we're so highly regulated these days. And what we're finding is that companies who are set up like this are actually, their time is cannibalized from these things that are actually helping drive your revenue in a positive way. And not only do they have all of these things that they're entering it in, and it could be on spreadsheets, and it's a nightmare to try to put it in all these different places and have it actually sync up and talk to each other the right way. They've also got to push this information out to possibly carriers, 401k administrators, other vendors that you might have right now, and all of the different government agencies and anybody else who needs to know about this information. PricewaterhouseCoopers actually commissioned a study that companies who are set up this way, and by the way, it's through no fault of their own, technology advances and increases so much over the years, and since you've started a business and started hiring employees, you've had to sort of automate as best you could with what was available, or best in breeds is what we like to call them. Problem now is that to maintain these systems, it's costing employers about $2,000 per employee. With a 200-person company, you're looking at about $400,000 total cost of ownership in this particular type of a setup, with an additional SIEM cost to get these to talk to each other and have the data flow the way that it needs to, when it needs to, and how it needs to, so that you can be timely and accurate on your reporting to the government and whoever else needs to know about that information. It's costing an additional $200 per SIEM in soft and hard costs to be able to get those systems to continue to integrate with each other. So you're looking at another $40,000. With a 25% increase over the course of however long you need that to happen to be able to ramp yourself up quick enough to handle those 2 new contracts, you're looking at also most likely not only increasing the time that they are spending here and here, which is going to cannibalize this even more. You're looking at increasing your SG&A, or your administration costs, again, by about 25%. So what ADP's gonna do is we're going to come in and we're going to conduct an analysis of what your current processes look like here. And I'm just going to share a quick slide with you. Because we have such a breadth of services to be able to provide, and this is kind of what it looks like here. You know, you can hire more people, but obviously that's going to create a risk. Or you can look at outsourcing, partially outsourcing, or fully outsourcing. We have actually 4 levels of service that start with either just taking a look at the outflow of the data versus the outflow and the inflow, possibly a layer of people, all the way up to a full professional employer organization type setup, which is called a PEO, which we'll talk about all of that later. But this kind of gives you a little bit of an idea of our breadth of services. So during our analysis, and the reason why we do it is there would be no way I'd be able to have a 25-minute conversation with your team and determine which level of service is going to be right for you. It's going to take 6 to 8 hours with your team to figure out exactly the technology or the solution that's going to fit the best for your organization to get you to where it is you want to be. Reduce this sales and general administration costs and possibly bring this down a couple of points is what our overall goal is going to be. So as I said, our analysis is about 6 to 10 hours. And we're going to bring in our HR team. We're going to bring in a team of business consultants, possibly a solutions consultant that's going to take a look at current processes and our technology and what might be the best fit. And we're going to come back to you and we're going to tell you, you know what, all we're going to be able to do is manage this outflow of data. So we're going to take this right here off their plate. Or we may come back to you and say, we're going to be able to manage the outflow and the inflow of this data and take this off their plate, help you get to where it is you want to be over here. Or we might say, you know what, with our expertise, these people aren't going to cut it. We're going to need to manage the outflow, the inflow, and we're going to need to put people on it to make sure that you are able to focus here. And then we may come back and say, you know what, we need to take all the compliance and risk off your plate, wrap it all up in a little bow, take all of this off your plate so you can spend 100% of your time focusing on what really matters to help drive your revenue and knock this down a couple of points. And then what I'm going to need from you is an additional time to come back and present some feedback that's going to tell you exactly how much, which solution is going to be right from you, from our breadth of services here, how much savings I'm going to be able to get you here, and how much I'm going to be able to bring this down by a point or two. Would that be worth spending 6 to 8 hours of time with your team to be able to figure it out? Great.
Yep.
So then I'll get with you after the meeting today, and we'll figure out a time where I can come back and present that feedback to you
All right.
when we're finished.
Thank you very much.
All right, thanks so much. I look forward to the opportunity.